Hello YouTube. Today I'm here to address Luffy's recent power up. Well, I've talked about how he got it. I have a theory of how he got it. Go check it out. It's amazing. I think that's the best conclusion I could ever come up with. I've also talked about Luffy's strengths and weaknesses, what we've seen and what we're about to see, and how he's special and whatnot. But hey, look, I'm here to address one thing today. People are saying that Luffy is now a god. He now has the power of a god. He's invincible. He has every freedom. But you guys don't get it. You guys literally do not get it. So what's my point? My point is, yes, he has the sun god powers, but God in One Piece, we don't know what gods in One Piece are. We've only seen Enel, who's just called himself a god. He's not a real god. We don't know what gods are like, but what we do know is that gods represent freedom. Luffy's been called a god, that is true, but he's also been called a warrior of liberation. The most connection we've had to God in One Piece is someone who frees people. And God, in his name, sun god Nika, his fruit, that has everything to do with freedom, very little to do with Luffy's powers. Okay, now, here's the thing. Here's what my point is. My point is it is very balanced. It is a very balanced power up. It's not over the top. It's very cartoonish, yes. It's very childlike, but it's not overpowered and busted. What do I mean by that? Okay, let's compare. Let's compare every other major shonen power-ups compared to Luffy's Gear 5, and only Gear 5. I'm not talking about Gear 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. Because every time he's pulled off the other 3 gears, first he pulled Gear 2nd off against Bluno, just ripped him off in 1 minute. He pulled off Gear 4, he took down Doflamingo, didn't take too much of an effort. Yes, he couldn't beat him at first, but yes, he did do a lot of damage. But he's not like it's not like he got Gear 4, he got into Gear 4 and beat Doflamingo in like 5 minutes. That didn't happen, but what did happen is he did beat him with basic Gear 4, with just basically his base form. So, Bound Man. He didn't have to use any other forms. So, now let's talk about other major power-ups. Other major shonen power-ups. What do I mean by that? Let's talk about Super Saiyan. The first ever power-up I ever got introduced to in the world of anime is Goku turning into a Super Saiyan. The time when he first turned into a Super Saiyan, what he did to Frieza is unbelievable. Frieza had no chance. Frieza's been beating everyone up here and there. Goku with the Spirit Bomb couldn't defeat Frieza, but then what happens? He turns into a Super Saiyan, and then now Goku has the upper hand, almost, until Frieza goes to his maximum, even at which point Goku is still stronger. No, so we could see that instantly up after the Super Saiyan power-up, Goku's now an edge above or very far above Frieza's powers. Moving on, more power-ups. Let's talk about Gon. And okay, Super Saiyan 1 didn't have any drawbacks. Let's talk about Super Saiyan 3 then. I know you're going to bring up Super Saiyan 3. If I said Super Saiyan 1 has no drawbacks, Super Saiyan 3 does. It does have drawbacks, but remember what he did to Boo. He almost killed him. He almost did. He just couldn't. It had drawbacks, but it gave him potential amount of, upper hand when it came to fighting Boo. He just didn't have the time and the energy. So again, we see the main character getting more power-ups and then having an upper hand against the main villain. Moving on, more power-ups. Naruto, when he finally combined with Kurama and he unlocked his Nine Tails powers. What he did after that in the Great Ninja War, fighting with everyone, was basically becoming almost a god, but not really. He had not so easy time against Madara, that is true, but he did have an easy time versus everyone else. So what that indicates is the fact that after Naruto's power-up, even after he got the power of sages, Kaguya was, yes, they were on par, but what we were shown when Naruto initially got the Nine Tails power was that he was invincible. He was above the top, he was helping everyone else out, and it felt like they were gonna win, and they did eventually did some sort of an upper hand. Okay, let's talk about a more prominent power up in the world of shonen. Ichigo's power up. Ichigo, when he mastered holification, let's not. You know what? Let's not talk about holification because holification allowed him to win against Grimmjow, but didn't allow him to win against Ulquiorra, or didn't allow him to beat anyone else aside from Grimmjow. So let's talk about the fight with Ulquiorra, or even his final Getsuga Tensho. So when that happened, he already when he sort of died and then came back again, sort of the same thing that happened with Luffy. That these are the two most prominent examples that I can compare. When Ichigo went into his Vastalorde form, he immediately had the upper hand on Ulquiorra. Just basically smacked him down in like 5 minutes and then we're good to go. The same could be said for Final Getsuga. Yes, it did take a while for him to beat Aizen, but he definitely had the upper hand in majority of the cases when fighting against Aizen. And Aizen being Aizen, he could never be overturned by Ichigo, but it did work out in his favor. My point being is, when Ichigo had the Vassalordes form, he had the upper hand. He did have drawbacks, yes. Sort of the same thing with Luffy, but he had the upper hand to the point where it's very significant, and you know he has it. Now, moving on. Another power-up that we can talk about is Gon. When Gon had his powers, I cannot recall what exactly happened, but he got mad and he then, went on this outburst and had this insane power up against Pito. What ended up happening was Gon had immediately way too much of an upper hand against Pito and just basically crushed her. Same thing with Vastalorde form, same thing with Goku turning into a Super Saiyan. But Gear 5, let's talk about Gear 5 now. When it comes to Gear 5, Luffy doesn't immediately have the upper hand against Kaido. He was going toe-to-toe with Kaido in his Gear 4 Snake Man and Tiger Man, Tiger Man? Sorry, I've read way too much theories. So when he went to his Snake Man and then in his other forms against Kaido, he was on par. He was literally on par. He just didn't have enough stamina. And he needed some sort of a power-up in order to beat Kaido because of Kaido's immense endurance. So he was already on toe-to-toe, and when Gear 5 was introduced, it's not like Luffy can finish Kaido off in a second, because they've been fighting for 2 chapters now. 2 chapters? Yeah, they've been fighting for 2 chapters almost. They're gonna fight even more. It's not over. From what it looks, from chapter 1045, the fight isn't over. There's a lot more to come, and Luffy doesn't have this immediate victory that most other power-ups had in shonen history. Very similar power-ups, yet Luffy doesn't have that thing. That thing of, okay, now I've got Gear 5, now I'm gonna smack Kaido down in 5 seconds, and then we're done. No, that's not the case. Now they're on even terms. Kaido has another chance to beat Luffy fair and square. Luffy now has another chance to liberate Wano, and with the power-up, that will help him towards the end of the story. So, does Gear 5 have drawbacks? Yes, it has drawbacks. Awakenings have drawbacks. Kid and Law, we've seen they've only recently awakened their devil fruits, and, well, they have a hard time maintaining it. The same could be said for Luffy. Luffy said, this form wore me out. I'm out of energy. It has its drawbacks, but it's not an insane power creep. It's not a power creep where now it's sort of like Blackbeard obtaining the Yami Yami and the Gura Gura at the same time, and then basically one-shotting the whole Marineford and whatever. It's nothing like that. It's not the same case when it came to Gear 2nd versus Bluno or Gear 4 against Doflamingo. It's actually a lot more complicated. It's actually a lot more even than you think. So the fact that Luffy doesn't have an upper hand, the fact that Luffy still has to go through more phases where he learns to use his Devil Fruit properly, and for Kaido to run out of stamina, I think this is a very balanced and fair power-up. He doesn't have godlike powers. He doesn't have a power-up that basically one-shots everyone he meets. Yes, it has infinite potential. It has freedom that Luffy cannot imagine in his wildest dreams. But he doesn't know that. He still thinks it's the Gomu Gomu no Mi. He just understands it's very different from his other gears, and it is his pinnacle. This is his ultimate form. But he doesn't know that his imagination is the only thing that's holding him back. So for him not knowing the properties of his fruit gives Kaido a handicap in a sense. Even if it didn't, Luffy still would have had a hard time because he just awakened it. He doesn't have the mastery of it. He doesn't know how to use it properly, and it'll take him still some more time to get used to it and to basically perfect it until he gets to Laugh Tale and everything. So my point being, I think we're fussing about Luffy's power up a bit too much. It might have cartoonish elements. Oda always wanted Luffy to be goofy and him to be cartoonish and very comedic in a way. And I think that's what he wants, and I think that's what he's doing. As for Luffy being overpowered, I think that's not the case. I'm telling it time after time. Give Oda some time. Oda needs some time to display his powers. We've seen that he has a drawback. It warns him out. Like I said before, if we give Oda enough time, he'll show us everything that we need to know, every drawback that Luffy has, all the things that Luffy can do up to this point, and how he'll defeat Kaido without being insanely powerful. So, my point is, we're just fussing over nothing. Luffy has godlike powers. That is a false statement. He has the power of a god, but God in One Piece doesn't correlate to God in other mythology or even in our world, where we think that God has immense power and he could do everything. It's not the case, and I feel like we're being a bit too judgmental when it comes to Luffy's power-up. It feels a little odd. It definitely feels a little odd compared to everything else, but for majority of us, we've never seen a gear being revealed for the first time and then, go along with the hype, have so much time to think about it. I have heard from people that when Gear 2nd was introduced, it was considered to be a gag. Even when Gear 4th was introduced, people considered it to be meh. It was weird, it was freaky. I think the same could be said for Gear 5. I think we need some time to get used to it, and we need to give ourselves some time to absorb the information and to absorb everything around it. And then when this final comes to the finals, when Oda decides to draw whoever final opponent of Luffy is, that's when we'll see the full power of the Hito no Mi model Nika, and we'll say then, yes, Oda did the best thing possible. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked it, please make sure to like and subscribe. Have a great day. Peace.